It's December 1926. Agatha Christie, the woman who wrote murder mysteries for a living, suddenly becomes the star of her own real-life mystery. She kisses her daughter goodnight, steps into her car, and vanishes. For 11 days, no one knows if she's dead or alive, and when she finally reappears, the truth is stranger than any plot she ever invented. Agatha Christie was already famous. Her books, like The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, were bestsellers, but her personal life, a mess. Her husband, Archie, was having an affair with a younger woman named Teresa Neal. Agatha's mom had just died. She was heartbroken, stressed, and then, on December 3rd, she snapped. That night, after kissing her daughter Rosalind goodnight, Agatha got into her car and drove away. She left behind her coat, her money, everything. The next morning, her car was found abandoned on a steep hill called Newlands Corner. The doors were left open. Police searched the area. They dragged the nearby silent pool, a lake with a creepy legend about drowned children, but nothing. No body, no clues, just silence. The news exploded. Over 1,000 policemen searched for her. They used planes to scan the countryside. Even the government got involved. The Home Secretary yelled at cops to work faster. And guess who else joined the hunt? The creator of Sherlock Holmes himself, Arthur Conan Doyle. Doyle tried to solve the mystery using a psychic. He gave one of Agatha's gloves to a woman who claimed she could talk to the dead. Spoiler, it didn't work. Meanwhile, another famous mystery writer, Dorothy L. Sayers, visited the abandoned car. Still, nothing. The newspapers blamed Archie, Agatha's cheating husband. They printed wild stories. But Archie had an alibi. He was with his girlfriend, Teresa Neal, the whole weekend. Awkward, right? 11 days later, a break in the case. At a fancy hotel in Harrogate, a banjo player named Bob Tappan spots a woman who looks exactly like Agatha Christie. But here's the twist. She's using the name Teresa Neal. Yep, the same name as Archie's girlfriend. For 11 days, Agatha had been living it up. She danced at parties, got spa treatments, and chatted with guests. No one suspected a thing, even though her face was on every newspaper. When the police showed up, Agatha seemed confused. She said, "I don't know who I am." Doctors later said she had memory loss from stress, but people didn't buy it. They thought she faked the whole thing to embarrass Archie. Archie rushed to the hotel to bring her home, but Agatha made him wait while she changed into a fancy gown. Cold revenge? Maybe, but she never explained herself. Not then. Not ever. Agatha divorced Archie 2 years later and married a handsome archaeologist named Max. She wrote iconic books like Murder on the Orient Express and lived happily ever after. But those 11 days, she took that secret to her grave. Historians still argue about what really happened. Some say it was a mental breakdown. Agatha was grieving her mom and humiliated by Archie's affair. Others think she planned it all to scare Archie or sell more books. But here's the weirdest part. In her novel, Unfinished Portrait, she wrote about a woman who tries to drown herself after her husband cheats. Coincidence? Or a clue? Was it amnesia, a revenge plot, or something even weirder? We'll never know, but that's why this story fascinates us. It's the ultimate mystery, written by the Queen of Mysteries herself. What do you think happened? It was February 1978. Stephen Kubacki, a 23-year-old student at Hope College in Michigan, headed out for what should have been a routine cross-country skiing trip along Lake Michigan. He'd done this before. He was an experienced outdoorsman who had even climbed mountains in Europe, but this time was different. Kubacki never returned. Snowmobilers found his skis and backpack abandoned near Saugatuck. Police followed his footprints in the snow, a single trail that led straight toward the frozen lake, and then simply stopped. The ice wasn't broken. There was no sign of a struggle. He had simply vanished. Investigators concluded he must have drowned, his body trapped somewhere beneath the thick ice, but some had their doubts. They even sent his dental records to Chicago to check against victims of serial killer John Wayne Gacy. Friends described Kubacki as brilliant but free-spirited, someone who stood out at his conservative Christian college. He lived off campus, played Dungeons & Dragons, and had already co-written articles for the school newspaper about improving campus security. His future looked bright. He was set to graduate that spring. He had a job lined up at a newspaper. According to Kubacki himself, his father was about to sign over the family house to him. There was even a romance in Germany waiting for him. Then, he disappeared without a trace. Fast forward 14 months, May 5th, 1979. Stephen Kubacki woke up in a grassy field in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, 700 miles east from where he had vanished. Draw a line on the map, and it's almost perfectly straight. He was wearing clothes he didn't recognize. His backpack contained $40, new glasses, and maps with hitchhiking signs for places across America: Sacramento, San Francisco, Reno, Chicago, Utah. He even had a t-shirt from a Wisconsin marathon. Kubacki didn't realize how much time had passed until he bought a newspaper and saw the date. Shocked, he made his way to an aunt's house nearby, and his family was finally reunited with their son they'd feared was dead. When reporters asked what happened, Kubacki had a simple answer. He didn't know. His last memory was feeling cold and scared in the darkness along Lake Michigan. Everything after that, a complete blank. "I feel like I've done a lot of running," he told reporters. But running from what? Or to what? Kubacki refused to see a psychiatrist, insisting he was in a healthy state of mind. He attributed his blackout to exhaustion and exposure. His parents, who had spent thousands on private investigators refusing to believe their son was dead, finally had him home. But the story doesn't end there. After his reappearance, Kubacki has steadfastly refused to discuss his disappearance with anyone. To this day, he lives in the Pacific Northwest, working as a psychologist. He's written a book called Meta-Mathematical Foundations of Existence: Godel, Quantum, God, and Beyond. What makes this case even more intriguing is where it happened. Kubacki disappeared near the edge of what some call the Lake Michigan Triangle, an area known for unexplained disappearances, shipwrecks, and strange phenomena. Just months after Kubacki vanished, a sailing crew in the same area reported experiencing what sounded like a vortex: sudden fog, winds coming from impossible directions, and 3 wooden ships performing synchronized 360-degree turns with no one steering. Did Kubacki ever retrace his steps as he said he would? Did he discover something about those missing months that he wished he hadn't? Or did he already know what happened, making such a journey unnecessary? Sometimes the most chilling mysteries aren't about what we know, but what we don't. And in Stephen Kubacki's case, those 14 missing months might be a story he's keeping to himself. For good reason. What do you think happened to Stephen Kubacki? Let me know in the comments below. You're driving down a highway in Australia. Your car catches fire, and then you vanish. Not for days, not for months, but for 23 years. This isn't fiction. This is the true story of Gabriel Nagy, a man who disappeared without a trace, only to reappear 2 decades later with no memory of who he was or the family desperately searching for him. Newcastle, Australia, 1987. Gabriel Nagy was living what many would consider an ordinary life. Married to his wife Pamela, father to 2 young children, working a steady job. By all accounts, he was a devoted family man. Then, one day, everything changed. Gabriel drove off, seemingly heading to work, and simply never returned. His car was later found burned out on the side of the road, but Gabriel was nowhere to be found. When police began investigating, they discovered something strange. About 2 weeks after his disappearance, someone had withdrawn money from Gabriel's bank account. They also learned he had purchased camping supplies shortly before vanishing. Was this a tragic accident? A carefully planned disappearance? Or something more sinister? Whatever happened, Gabriel Nagy had vanished into thin air, leaving his devastated family searching for answers. For Pamela Nagy and her children Jennifer and Stephen, life became an endless series of unanswered questions. Where was Gabriel? Was he alive? Had he chosen to leave them, or had something terrible happened to him? Years turned into decades. The children grew up without their father. Holidays and birthdays came and went. The Nagy family never stopped hoping, but after 23 years, they were preparing to do the unthinkable: have Gabriel declared legally dead. Little did they know, Gabriel Nagy was still very much alive. Fast forward to 2010. In Mackay, Queensland, over 1,600 kilometers from Newcastle, a man known locally as Ron Saunders sought medical treatment. Senior Constable Georgia Robinson, a police officer working on missing persons cases, noticed something unusual about this Ron Saunders. His Medicare records seemed inconsistent. Following her instincts, she dug deeper into his case. What she discovered was astonishing. Ron Saunders was actually Gabriel Nagy, the man who had vanished without a trace 23 years earlier. But here's the twist. Gabriel himself had no idea who he really was. For over 2 decades, Gabriel had been living with severe amnesia, possibly caused by a condition known as dissociative fugue, a rare psychiatric disorder where a person suddenly travels away from their home and creates an entirely new identity, with no memory of their previous life. How did Gabriel survive those lost years? The details remain sketchy, but it appears he had been living rough for much of that time, working odd jobs, camping, and moving from place to place across Australia. Most remarkably, he had no idea he had a family desperately searching for him. When Officer Robinson made her discovery, she approached Gabriel gently, bringing letters from his wife and children. As he read their words, something miraculous happened. Fragments of memory began returning. Gabriel later said he wrote the longest letter of his life in response to his family. After 23 years of separation, the Nagy family was finally reunited. The meeting between Gabriel and his daughter Jennifer was especially emotional. A father meeting the grown woman who had been just a child when he disappeared. Today, while Gabriel doesn't live with his wife Pamela, they remain in contact. He has rebuilt relationships with his now adult children, Jennifer and Stephen. Though his memory remains incomplete, he continues to piece together the puzzle of his past life. Many questions remain unanswered. Did Gabriel intentionally disappear that day in 1987? Did he suffer a head injury in the car fire? Was there a traumatic event that triggered his amnesia? We may never know the full story of what happened during those missing years. The Gabriel Nagy story serves as a powerful reminder that sometimes, against all odds, the missing do return home. For families living with the pain of a disappeared loved one, his story offers a rare and precious commodity: hope. It also raises profound questions about identity. Who are we without our memories? If Gabriel Nagy could build an entirely new life as Ron Saunders with no recollection of his past, what does that tell us about the nature of self? Somewhere on a remote Australian highway in 1987, Gabriel Nagy's old life ended and a strange journey began. A journey that would eventually lead him home, though changed forever. What do you think happened during Gabriel's missing years? Could you rebuild your life if you lost all memory of who you were? Share your thoughts in the comments.